not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that I am complacent. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that loved my husband and my husband loved them is somehow in on it.
Yeah, it's a kind of a common theme that when people die, you should question the people closest to them, actually. Yeah, I am suggesting that it's like a very high percentage of murders that are committed by somebody else that they know. I think it's like north of 95% of murders. And no matter how many adjectives you assign to people at Turning Point USA, we're not going to accept this narrative, okay? We're not going to accept this narrative, especially when you're lying and you won't tell us the relevant portions. Who did he think was going to kill him? Andrew Colvett? Can you tell us, Andrew? Can you tell us, Blake Neff? Can you tell us, Mikey McCoy? Tim Pool was having some sort of a breakdown. I don't really know what it's about. I don't know why he's tweeting about me all the time. I hope he gets well. But I do want to address this absurd point that he is making about why we shouldn't be speaking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Take a listen.
You can come and you can burn everything I have to the ground, and I will happily live in a van down by the river. I don't care to be number one. I don't need to be number one. What I care about is what is true and what will help this country and what works. And she is a scumbag, okay? And she's getting worse every day. And she crossed the line. She continually crosses the line every day, insinuating that Turning Point literally killed the guy who made them all rich. And I hear this in the streets, and at a certain point, I'm like, holy shit, we're gonna lose the midterms. We're gonna lose the midterms. Then we're gonna lose in 2028, and it's because she's a piece of shit. Because instead of saying, guys, let's come together and figure out how to work together, she says the stupidest, retarded crap. And now everybody's running around divided and broken. For what reason? For literally what reason?
Because they killed Charlie Kirk in broad daylight, and we don't care about your stupid midterms. We just don't care. Like, they really, this is how they view Charlie Kirk. That's why I say, was anything in his life real? Tim Pool is going off right now because he's like, it's not the time. You guys need to be mules. You need to keep voting in the very corrupt people that are lying to your faces right now about what happened to Charlie Kirk. It is not the time because it is your job to get people into office. These people just saw Charlie as a means to an end, okay? As a political horse that they could ride. And so for whatever reason, they got tired riding him. And now they're angry because they also were going to whip the horse, the ghost of Charlie Kirk, and say, we still need you to shore up votes. And it is inconvenient that people who actually cared about Charlie and saw him as a, I don't know, human being, want to know why he was publicly executed in front of us and why we're being lied to about everything. That is why Tim Pool is upset, because midterms, it's going to be my fault, not the fault of the feds for feeding us BS. It's not going to be the fault of Turning Point USA for lying and thinking that they're brighter than us and seemingly not caring about the investigation. It's not going to be the fault of, I don't know, maybe actual politicians like Donald Trump, who's a president of the United States, and look us in the face and said, are we still talking about the Epstein files? No, that's not his fault. The fault is Candace Owens for wanting to figure out who murdered her friend. And don't you guys get it? Like, we're just an algorithm. Why do you care so much about humans? Like, why are you a human? Like, if somebody in your family dies, you need to focus on midterms. Okay? That is the point of a Tim Pool show. We'll pause at certain moments because I do want to be able to respond throughout it. It's a bit long, but I want to give them my platform, as I always have made that offer to. So here is Blake Neff.
Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for this show. She's made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees.
Yes.
She has suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. She has suggested Michael is not his real name. It is. I have seen his birth certificate myself. She has called it suspicious that Mikey's wife, who works at Turning Point, helped plan the campus tour event where Charlie was murdered, which she didn't, by the way. She doesn't work on campus events.
Okay, so first and foremost, I actually never said that she helped plan the event. I said it was suspicious that Mikey McCoy's wife, that we never found out who did plan the event. That was one of the answers that we wanted to know. And I said that she works in events. Still was not clear on what happened regarding Mikey McCoy. I think the entire world believes that his actions are suspicious because we have eyes, and you don't get to wiggle out of that. People at Turning Point USA are in possession of text messages and the day before Charlie died, in which he wrote out to you, and not just to people that work at Turning Point USA, but also security guards, that he thought that they were going to kill him tomorrow, explicitly. I find it highly unusual that you wouldn't share that information at all, or that you would sit by and be quiet, or at some points attack people that are trying to explore who they is, because I don't think anybody believes that Charlie thought that a trans furry kid who had never been on UVU's campus was going to kill him tomorrow. And your silence during moments when people are lying, like Josh Hammer, when he said, hey, this never happened, Charlie never blinked on Israel, makes you all look very, very suspicious. Lies are only necessary, okay, when you are covering something. And if you are covering the truth, you are betraying Charlie. So I stand by that. Let's keep going.
She has said Charlie's murder, quote, had to be approved by Charlie's friends, and then suggested those friends might have her murdered too for, quote, knowing the truth.
So you notice that's like a Snopes tactic. When he says the quote, it's actually not a full quotation. I never said that. Obviously, in the context that he put it in, that Charlie's friends, quote, had to know he was going to be murdered. Did I say the sentence, had to know he was going to be murdered? Perhaps, but we're going to need to hear the full sentence because you're trying to context it in a way that is just untrue. And again, trying to gaslight us and pretend we're conspiracy theorists or like that's stupid. Not a good long-term strategy for Turning Point USA. Carry on.
The attacks and allegations from Candace are either lies or they are innuendos thrown around with a total, reckless disregard for the truth, so that Candace can manipulate and string along an audience of people who don't realize they are being played. Instead of being able to grieve properly after one of the most heinous murders in American history, a murder many of us had to witness, my friends have had to endure harassment from people who have gotten whipped up by what Candace is saying. In fact, I would say we have suffered more harassment from these people than we have from Antifa supporters who overtly celebrate Charlie's murder. And just like a lot of those Antifa members, many of these people take this delight in how gross and unpleasant they can be. What our friends have had to endure is not funny, and it's not insignificant. It is evil. I have seen it.
Okay, conflating people that are trying to figure out who murdered Charlie Kirk with like Antifa is actually objectively funny. That's an unforced error. They should not have included that in the statement. Somebody in that room was like, should we say that? Should we not? And somebody said, no, we shouldn't say that. And then somebody else in the room said, no, we should, let's keep it in. That second person was wrong. That should have been struck from the statement. It's very silly, okay? It's very silly to attack your own audiences who are concerned and your own donors who are concerned and say, you're Antifa. I don't think we're getting the truth. And I do believe that because you are not forthcoming about the information that you have, about Charlie texting you guys and saying that he thought he was going to be assassinated that very next day. Okay? The day that he died, Charlie said he thinks he was going to be killed tomorrow, and you guys are sitting on that information. So I'm the right person. Yeah, I'm the right person to sit across from you and to ask you questions, right? Some things that you told me on that day, they're not adding up. I think the entire world would like to see this discussion. I think you can do it in Charlie's honor. I'll sit there. You pick a place and time. We could have done this today, by the way. You didn't have to read all that. And it's not hard. It's not difficult if you are telling the truth to answer questions. When you are emoting so much and you're upset at the inquiry and you're playing this game like you're David Hogg and, well, I survived Parkland, so how dare you question my authority on anything? Not a good long-term strategy. It's not going to be effective long-term. And I think you're learning that lesson because 3 months on, with the entire mainstream media on your side and attacking me.
Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus. Yes, I believe in our judicial system. I do. We have a hell of a team working on this, excuse my French. But this is not okay.
What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it.
Do you believe that Tyler Robinson murdered your husband?
Yes, I do.
Why do you think it is so hard for so many people to believe that reality?
Because it's too simple. Again, everyone always has to think there's more to the story. Well, sometimes there's not. I've seen the autopsy report. I've seen our case pulled together. I've been in constant contact with our lawyers, the prosecuting team. I've seen it all. And let me tell you this. Why in the world, why should we, prior to the trial, lay all of our hands and cards on the table for the defense team to see, to somehow then, I don't even know what they would do with it. But I'm nervous that there could be, they'll say we can't find a fair jury. Like they're going to taint the jury pool. And in that case,
that's how widespread you think these conspiracies have gone.
yes.
That's how mainstream they become. Okay.
And I hate to say this, but I'm going to be very clear here. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic, okay? If you really care about your team, answer the questions, okay? Just demystify the entire event. Answer, come out, sit down, answer the questions so people don't think Turning Point USA looks so suspicious. Don't try to like mom the organization and say, well, mother's upset because people are coming after her kids and all of this multi-million-dollar subsidiaries. That's my children, okay? The multi-million-dollar subsidiaries, Turning Point, like Turning Point Action, all that, those are my kids, so you can't critique them. Not a good idea, okay? It may work in PR world. You guys, I know how it's an obvious PR campaign. It's never been more obvious of a psychological operation. I actually wish they would put me on payroll so I could help them make these things look more organic than having every single person that has been telling us to stop asking questions all make the exact same video within 4 seconds of each other, being like, whoa, Erica Kirk shuts down No, she didn't even respond to one of the conspiracies. She gave us emotion. She gave us emotion. She said, I'm a mother, I am a wife, and we never asked about whether she was mother or wife. We want to know if she is a CEO and a chairman. And a CEO and a chairman has to compartmentalize. A CEO and a chairman cannot respond to valid questions and critiques about finances, about shady actions that are being taken by people that require presidential pardons, people that are meaningfully asking why we are not getting a clear answer of what took place on September 10th. A CEO, okay, does not get to respond and say, that's my family. Essentially, they're saying to us that scientific inquiry and investigation in and of itself is now patently wrong, right? Essentially, we should just trust the state. Don't believe your own instincts. Don't believe your own eyes. Don't ask any questions. And I really want to stress to you guys how utterly ridiculous that logic is, right? Because if we followed that logic in any other situation, there would never be a crime solved ever, okay? If we just ascribe to the idea that scientific investigation is on its face wrong, it would not work. We don't care about the elections coming up. We want to know whether or not we are in bed with people who are capable of murder, people that are capable of covering up murders. Actually, we, the nosy neighbors, feel a little bit less safe in this neighborhood until we know whether or not there are some psychopathic killers in our midst. How about that? That's how I feel. I think that's how a lot of people feel right now. So I want to express that. And this psychological campaign filled with emotional manipulation and how dare you, and the aggrieved widow speaks, and so you're not allowed to question a $150 million organization. No, I reject it. I reject that 100%. Which is why I will say it has arrived as a blast of fresh air that on this very same day, Tucker Carlson is standing up to the nonsense. He's not speaking about Erica, obviously. He is friends with Erica. But just the nonsense of what the FBI is saying, he's wading in and saying, yeah, the FBI is not being clear in what happened, and I have questions.
In the 3 months since Charlie Kirk was murdered, I've really tried not to comment on the murder investigation in public. And it's not because I don't care, of course. I love Charlie and knew him well since he was a teenager. But I haven't said anything about it. I really tried not to say anything about it. First, because I don't really know anything that everyone else doesn't know. I've asked around, but of course, how do you know what the truth is? But the other reason I haven't said anything is because I know personally a number of the people involved in what's now become a very large story. I know them really well. And I really think a lot of all of them. It's not enough to have government officials tell us, well, this is the truth. We have a right, probably an obligation to say, well, can you prove it? And if you can't, I don't have to believe you. So if there's one thing that bothers me above all about the investigation into Charlie Kirk is that is getting lost. As people argue over what happened, we are potentially letting our largest federal law enforcement agency off the hook. It is the job of the FBI to find out what happened and to tell the rest of us, not hide behind, well, it's national security, confidential sources. No, tell us what happened. Show us what happened. Convince us what happened. That's your job. And we shouldn't accept anything less. And by the way, when we do accept something less, then, new explanations fill the vacuum left by the FBI, which we pay to explain to us what happened. And so I'm going to really do my best not to talk about things I don't understand, state things as though I know them when I don't know them. I'm going to do my best to stay out of it because I love Charlie and I want justice to be done in this case. But the rest of us should remain skeptical. We have a duty to remain skeptical, and we should not be ashamed of our skepticism.
We knew who Charlie was because he was authentic, okay? He didn't just go, well, I only make time for like big pocket donors, okay? He was sitting college campuses. He was speaking to people, understanding people. He was changing his ideas and he was changing minds. And you are not changing my mind about the fact that something weird happened that day and that TPUSA is acting funny because you give it an impassioned plea and speak about Nehemiah on Fox News. Okay?
We're all grieving in our own way, and they are trying to find the answer to something that happened that was so evil. They are trying so hard, and I get that. We're doing the same. Anytime we hear a lead or anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. Please dig into this. No rock will be unturned. I want justice for my husband, for myself, for my family, more than anyone else out there. Communication is everything. And so when he was on campus, he knew talking to people was very important, especially the youth. We don't communicate with each other anymore. So something as simple as talking goes viral because no one talks. The miscommunication is out of control. And so he was so good at communicating and understanding and bridging that gap. And for him, this book was one of those moments where, okay, if you have communication mixed in with people turning off the noise and the chatter and actually resetting and rehumanizing, putting those together is a beautiful symphony of how this country can heal.
And a lot of this drama obviously goes back a long way. But I think after Charlie was killed, it's created this kind of this vacuum, and it's a leadership vacuum because Charlie was I think the best leader we had on the right, and the tragic reality is that a lot of the stuff that we said right after he was killed turned out not to be true. Stuff that even I said, like, well, you killed Charlie, but you made a million more. Right, you killed one Charlie, but now we have a million more Charlies. And I think we said that because we wanted that to be true, and it kind of for a brief amount of time it felt that way because it felt like everybody was sort of unified, and we were coming together and going to the memorial, and everybody was there, and it felt like almost this revival, even this religious revival, and all these things. But then I think quickly reality sets in. And what we have realized and what we've seen is that you killed Charlie, and now Charlie's gone. when you that's the thing. When you kill someone, they're gone, at least in this life. And so we didn't go from one Charlie to a million Charlies. We went from one Charlie to 0 Charlies. And that's what happens that's why assassinations happen. That's why people do them.
Because they work.
Because it works. Yeah, because they work. And that's been the greatest tragedy about all this. I mean, aside from the human tragedy that an actual human being lost his life, and his wife doesn't have a husband, his kids don't have a father. I mean, that's the great tragedy, the human tragedy. But on a kind of national scale, the tragedy is that the strategy of assassination has been proven effective again, as it has all throughout human history. And so now this guy who was this, I think to an extent that none of us fully realized, was the glue that was holding everything together on the right, holding this whole crazy coalition together. It turns out it was like one guy who was doing this, and his organization, which is still around, who I have a lot of respect for TPUSA. And I think they're doing the absolute best they can in the face of this. I mean, I can't even imagine being in the spot that they're in. But he was the leader of the organization. He was a leader of the conservative movement. He was the glue. And now he's gone, and it kind of feels like everything's coming undone, to be honest with you.
Because they killed Charlie Kirk in broad daylight, and we don't care about your stupid midterms.
You said that your motive for going to the meeting was that you would be able to come out and tell the world Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. So are you in a position to say that? Do you believe, as a consequence of your 4.5 hours with Erica, do you believe that it is now most likely that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
Absolutely not. I haven't seen one piece of compelling evidence that Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man on a college campus that he didn't go to, and fired one shot, a magic bullet shot, and killed Charlie Kirk. I have not seen one piece of compelling evidence. In fact, I've seen more compelling evidence to the contrary.
Who does Erica think killed her husband?
Well, I think that in her recent PR blitz, she sort of communicated that she trusted her team, and her lawyer was using kind of the same rhetoric that the media has been using, where, there's really, this is like, it's overwhelming. Maybe he didn't say the word overwhelming, but he was like, it's very clear, I think is what he said in particular. And then I pushed back and I said, what's clear? The affidavit? That's all you guys have? And I did tell him, if you would never be my lawyer.
Why did I have an obligation to stop Candace from asking those questions? I didn't, and I didn't call her out because I favored her asking them.